5:30. Go through roll call. Elaine, I see is on on
Yep.
my computer. Andy's here, Mike is here, Trish, Heidi, and Chris. Very good. So everybody's here. Minutes to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I have no appointments. So we'll move right on to committees. First up would be Denise Spengler, 911. And Denise, I see you're on the TV.
I am. Good evening. We actually just got back in from traveling this afternoon, so that's why I am not there. Couple of things just to highlight on my report. The roof repair at the Cato site has been completed. The Sterling antenna on here says the replacement is in progress, but that actually has been completed as of yesterday. Maintenance is looking at the roof repair. That may be another repair like the Cato site. We're starting to see some issues with the roofs. They are about 10 years old, so I don't know, maybe that's expected, maybe not. Couple of things that are not on here that I would like to talk about. T-Mobile is interested in possibly co-locating on our IRA tower. That would be some additional revenue to the county. So we are working through some logistics with them. And if it gets down to where it seems like it will be a good fit, I will be bringing that to committee. The Red Creek School District is interested in putting some equipment at our Sterling site. That wouldn't be a lot of revenue. It'd be probably just be more of offsetting some of the power costs. Generally, school districts, it's not, not a whole lot of revenue there. And Yates County is looking at the Ovid site, but that one, there's some question there because it would cause quite a load on that tower site. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with that one at this point. But those are some of the things that we're working through right now. The old Cato Tower, I'm waiting to hear back from the village. I think they have a board meeting either today or tomorrow with regards to the removal of that old tower. That was from the old communication system. So we've gotten a quote on that. It's gonna be roughly $35,000 to take down that tower and the shelter and equipment associated. But I am trying to get some more information because we need to make sure that we're covering our bases because there's obviously going to be probably a little bit of damage to the yard around it. And that's just a result of having to put a crane in there. So I want to talk to the village and make sure they understand that, some of these things could be potential problems down the road, or things that they may have to take care of. Because we wouldn't really expect our vendor to repair the land there. And it wouldn't be necessarily so much of damage, but probably more need to be seeded after the fact. So once I have some more information on that, I actually expected to be bringing that to committee this month, but we're just not quite there yet. So, and the only other thing I have is I do have one resolution, and it's a maintenance contract for the HVAC units. That's JP1.
If you would like to go into that right now, Denise, feel free, please.
Mr. Chair.
Sure, that is to contract with Upstate Temperature to take care of the HVAC units at all the tower sites. Upstate does also have a contract with the jail. So I think we're getting a little bit of a break on the cost there just because they do have the other contract as well. So we're just going to piggyback off of that. And that is budgeted.
And this is a continuing with them, Denise, correct?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Move it.
All right, I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Any other discussion, questions for Denise? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, of course.
Up next, Lloyd Hopkins with Sign Council, Stop DWI.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
You all received my report. I see you've got it online here. I don't have any resolutions tonight. Just a couple updates, quick updates. Chairman Gould and Brittany and myself and probation met on the, as you know, back in January, I stepped down as step DWI coordinator. While I was coordinator, the step DWI office took on the interlock program of those people that were not on probation. Probation monitors those that are on probation with the interlock. And so we had a contract with Cayuga Counseling that they did not want to renew. So we brought it on internally with the county. And we've been running it for a couple of years. Tracy Colson has been running the interlock program for those that are not on probation. We met last week and Tracy is no longer interested in doing that anymore. So I believe now and I think maybe next month there's going to be a resolution or to have the interlock program transferred over to probation. So they'll be doing both the supervised and unsupervised people that have to have the interlock put on their vehicle. Stop DWI program again back in January. I stepped down from that. I believe there'll be a resolution next month asking for your support for Tracy Folsom to continue as the Stop DWI coordinator on that. In terms of my assigned counsel position, I will be meeting with, I believe the Civil Service Commission meets on the 19th of this month. I've submitted the qualifications, everything we need to submit for Civil Service Commission to review for a full-time administrator for assigned counsel. They're going to take a look at setting the salary with that, but everything obviously has to come back to this body for approval. But again, that will be paid for in its entirety by a grant from Indigent Legal Services, my replacement. So other than that, Mr. Chair.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Haslett? Mr. Petras?
So is that, and that's not in perpetuity, right? It's just for the foreseeable future, the state is going to pay for that.
Well, this is not unlike, this is not grant. This is a lawsuit settled under the Hurrell hearing. And so I know it's in the budget for the next 5 years, so.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
One more question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding something correctly. So is it, because in one place you say there's 43 assigned to family court, and then there's 31 assignments to family court. Is 143 for arraignments, and then like the other 31 is for like to be assigned to a family court to maybe represent a juvenile or something? I don't know.
31 assignments were made actually out of family court for neglect or custody or visitation.
And then there were like arraignments in family court that you did 43 of them.
And that was in city. I'm looking at my narrative here. 66 defendants in city court,
so right there?
37 in justice court, and 31 in family court.
So family court 43, and then
What the first? It doesn't say family court up there.
No,
1% for family.
family court.
I believe it's one framer, or there's a little period there. Yeah, it's see and make out. Yeah, no, that's
You went to me.
Okay. I'm just gonna shut up and hope.
Any other questions for Mr. Haslett?
Trish does.
Trish, go ahead.
I had a question about your numbers as well, and I was just curious, are the orders of protection, are those part of the 67 arraignments, or are those separate?
No, they are a part of the arraignment. So quite often, especially on the criminal contempts, or harassment second, or a family separation, the police department or the victim will request to order protection. And so they have to bring them into the centralized arraignment, and the judge on call will issue the order of protection. And again, you'll see those numbers are just popping up every month. They get seem to get more and more orders of protection.
Thanks.
Any
Mark-
other questions?
Yeah, Mark, I did have a question. It had more
Yes.
to do with this, more to do with this interlock program. I understand from what Lloyd said that, anyone on probation that the court said would have an interlock on their car so that they couldn't drive while under the influence or while intoxicated. Probation did, but now there's a subset of these cases that are now going to probation. And is that a bigger volume of work or less? And what does that really mean? That someone has to monitor the system to make sure no one breached and actually drove a vehicle? I don't even understand what the volume of work would be.
I'm not sure the numbers. There's more people not on probation that are monitored than are on probation. And there's a company that we contract with, and the only time you're notified is if there's a violation. So if they try to get.
Okay, they're not doing the 24/7 monitoring. A company is doing it on our behalf and then
Correct.
notifying us if someone violates that term or order.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I didn't know that much about it.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Next up would be Dr. Adam Duckett, the coroner. He says no updates, and I don't see him on.
No,
Okay, moving along. Brittany Antonacci, District Attorney, or I should say acting.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. We have been actively recruiting for our open assistant DA entry-level position, and I'm excited to announce that I did extend an offer. We have a candidate who has 2 years of prosecutorial experience. He previously worked for Broome County, so he is going to be moving up here and starting with us in mid-May. So that's great. It's really unheard of right now to get someone with experience, so I'm excited about that. We are conducting interviews for our victim advocate witness coordinator position, which is actually JP2 for your consideration. It is a grant funded program. I moved our prior victim advocate to our administrative assistant that was vacant on that position. And so this created a backfill vacancy in that position. I've had a lot of amazing candidates. I think we've interviewed about 8 people, narrowing it down to about 3 people right now. So hopefully going to make an offer in the next couple of weeks, contingent on obviously this passing the resolution passing the full legislature at the end of this month. I did send an email around to the members of the legislature. We are supposed to be getting approximately $40 million in funding to upstate New York DA's offices. DCJS and DASNY, our District Attorneys Association, are currently working together to figure out how that is going to be allocated among the different district attorneys' offices. I do anticipate that we should get some substantial funding, which will provide much needed support for our discovery positions. So I don't know if it can be used for existing positions, but it certainly can be used for positions coming up in the future, such as my next resolution, which is on for the investigator position for the body camera program. So that position wouldn't start until June. That's when the position would start in the resolution. So I should have an answer at that point, which is exciting because we've been looking for funding for a while, and I'm very excited that our calls for funding were heard and answered. And so that'll be great for local government and local counties. So I'm happy to answer any questions on either of the 2 resolutions.
Brittany, it's Elaine. I did send you a separate email, and I appreciate you looking into the whole thing about supplantation and whether there could be retroactive claiming. But why is this position starting in June, which makes it even more I was worried you'd offer the position, we'd start it, and they'd say, well, if you already have the existing cost, we're not going to cover those. But you're saying this position now would be June. Is there a reason that you would wait till June?
Yeah, so we're waiting to June because right now we're able to manage the New York State Police body camera videos that are coming in with our current investigators. So I anticipate that the Auburn Police Department, their body camera program, anticipated date will be this summer, most likely July. And then I spoke with the sheriff. I believe they're shooting for early fall. So we want to get someone in there who can kind of hit the ground running, learn the program beforehand. So we figured June was a good start date, and it actually will work out well with this funding because I should have an answer in the next couple of weeks for you,
Yep.
Elaine, and then we can go
Yep,
forward.
and the money that you're looking to come out of contingency, obviously you've calculated to start with that June start date as well. That's where you got the 35,000 from?
Correct.
Okay, great, thanks. Thank you.
Move 1 and 2 as a bundle, or 2 and 3 as a bundle.
I do
or-
have that option.
Second.
Is that all right?
Unless somebody wants,
Would anybody like either one of the district attorney's resolutions separate, or can we move them as a bundle? Anybody got any issues with moving them as a bundle? Then I would make that.
Andy, and I'll second it.
I got a second. Any discussion? All in
Sorry.
favor?
Yep,
Oh, wait a
aye.
minute.
No, I said, sorry, I asked questions out of order, but yes, I'm in support of these.
It's okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Next up, Dale Courier, Fire EM and EMO.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Well, first of all, an item that's not on my report. We just got new information this morning regarding Lake Ontario water levels. The lake has come up 5 inches in the last month, which puts it 20 inches above where it was this time last year. The forecast is that it's going to come up another 5 inches by May 8th. Last week, or late the week before, we did speak with Mr. Basile in Fairhaven because they're the area historically hardest hit. There weren't any concerns at that point, so we will continue to monitor the situation and work with those who need it as needs arise. Then I'll drop down to the hazard mitigation items. The other items are, I think, pretty self-explanatory. First, thank you to all the legislators who helped us beat the bushes to get out to the municipalities to do the formal adoption of their hazard mitigation plan. Friday, we surpassed the 50% adoption rate we needed to finalize and lock in that plan with FEMA. As of this afternoon, we're a little over 60%. So that was a great effort. And I'm going to ask your assistance again. If you look at item 4, I think we had reported previously that there's a bunch of New York specific hazard mitigation money available for municipalities. We have sent this information out to all of them. Some flinched because the original notice of funding was typical funding split, 75% from FEMA, 25% local. And even on some of their smaller hazard mitigation projects in their plans, such as putting in backup generation for town hall or that type of thing, 25% was a pretty tough nut to crack for them. So earlier this week, the state has changed that, and now the percentage went from 75 to 90. So the locals only have to come up with 10%, which may make it more viable for some of them. So if you have a chance, please reach out to your local constituents, local elected leaders, let them know that there's money to be had and their share would be lower. Last item, the Tier 3 emergency management training for local officials. Thank you. We have 5 legislators registered for that. If you haven't registered and you're interested, it's April 27th. I believe it's at 5:30. And if you'd like to, it's about 3 hours. If you'd like to attend, just give Rusty a call at 1164 and he'll give you all the details. So with that, is there anything I can add or clarify?
I got a couple of hands up, Dale, so hang on just a minute. I'll start with Lydia. She's the first one I saw.
Hi, Dale. Thank you for being here. As far as the hazard mitigation plan that you asked us to reach out before, would it matter if we still chase the strays? And if so, can we have an updated list of the towns that are still not in compliance?
We can get you that list. I think pretty much, I haven't looked at it this week. COVID finally caught me last week, but so I've been out, but there's no specific need or urgency. We have reached out to all the strays again, if you will, and many of them have it on their agenda for their town or local meetings later this month. So I think we're in pretty good shape. We haven't had anybody say they're not going to do it.
Thank you, and feel better.
Mr. Basile.
Yes, hey Dale. Two questions. One on this grant opportunity. And have you resent that out with this new information? And did I just miss it?
That went out yesterday.
Okay, so I have to look through. And when's the due date?
First. The due date did not change.
June 1st?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what's the mobilization time from when you get a call from the mayor from the village of Fairhaven when the water starts coming up?
To mobilize what?
Sandbags, people.
Well, sandbags we're actually getting ready to go survey what we have left from before. We don't have people available, and actually on our call with the state emergency management this morning, that is going to be a major challenge statewide. There does not appear to be the availability of personnel such as the National Guard that there was in 2017 and 2019. So while we can provide sandbags to the municipalities, we have no source here to provide people. It's going to have to be a local effort.
So no people, so when you say provide sandbags, they'll truck them up. There won't be a sandbag machine available. It's going to be all pre-bagged.
No, this is empty bags. We can, if they know there is staff to operate it, we can request a filling machine from the state. And depending on how many people are asking for it at the same time, it might take a couple of days to get that in place.
Okay, thank you for the good news.
Any other questions for Dale? I do have a couple of questions, Dale, real quick, if nobody else is hand up. Dale, I see you put out an email today about the training center tour on the 22nd at noon. Should we meet just right there at the training tower site?
Yes, and that's not a open y'all come tour, unfortunately.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Nope, that's it. Anybody else got any questions for Dale? Dale doesn't have any resolutions this evening. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Okay, probation is up next, and I believe we have a stand-in. I don't really want to say stand-in, a substitute. John Madden from probation, and I believe he's a supervisor.
I am, yes, thank you. I believe JD had sent a report, and I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
I see probation has one resolution.
I'll move that, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion for JP4 and a second from Trish. Heidi did, thank you. So I got a motion and a second. Any discussion on JP4?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to confirm, this is for the polygraph? John, it's Chris Petras for the polygraph.
Hi, Chris. I believe it is, yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Any other final questions for Mr. Madden?
It looks like it's urine testing, Chris Petras, doesn't it?
No.
Is it? 'Cause,
Alcohol and drug
last month was, last month we did the poly maybe, and this month is
Yeah.
urine.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you, Elaine.
Yeah, related to, yeah, compliant
They're
with,
allowed to do urine tests.
yes, I think it's alcohol and drug testing, random testing.
Thank you.
The national test, with national test systems. Okay, that's the resolution you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the polygraph resolution, which we already.
My bad.
Forgiven.
Yep, it does say drug testing. I just got to it. Okay. There's no other questions. Thank you, John Madden.
Thank you.
Next up, Sheriff Brian Shank, and Sheriff is on the computer.
I'm here. Good evening, everybody. In addition to my report, I did want to highlight the fact I mentioned that we continue to struggle recruiting, especially in our custody division within the jail. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Number of neighboring agencies, sheriffs are having the same trouble. I've mentioned in the past, this isn't unique to us, but I see that a number of sheriff's offices are starting to really aggressively recruit for lateral transfers. So there's such a limited pool of candidates and very few people taking the entry level exams that they just don't have the lists to hire from. We're seeing the same thing, but I just put that out there because it's going to continue to be more and more challenging trying to recruit staff, and there's a concern of other agencies trying to recruit certainly our qualified staff away from us. So we're going to have to stay on top of that. We're going to have to look at our contracts, and they're all up this year, but we're going to have to take a look at where we need to be to stay competitive. And that's gonna be one of our big challenges this year, but it is not something that seems to be correcting itself. And with that, I'll go back to the discussion that Mr. Courier and Legislator Basile just had. As far as the sandbagging, I know historically we've relied on our inmate work crew to sandbag in Fairhaven when we've needed to do that in other parts of the county. And that would be something, if that were to happen right now when we needed that labor, we wouldn't have them. So something else to consider. If it's looking like we're going to need to do things like that, we're not going to have the inmate work crew just because we don't have the staff currently to put them out there. We're at minimums just covering the posts within our facility. We're down 10 positions right now, and I'll give kudos to our staff. They're doing a great job stepping up and working mostly voluntary overtime. At times we do have to mandate that, but they've really been stepping up to the plate and doing that. But it's not sustainable forever. So we're continuing to try to hire. It's not going as quickly as we would like it to, but something we definitely need to keep on our radar. And I don't want to continue to be the bearer of bad news, but I just wanted to bring to your attention some additional pressure on our budget. Certainly the overtime with our overtime budget with the mandated overtime and voluntary overtime, certainly going to burn through our overtime budget very quickly this year. There will be some salary savings that will certainly help offset that, but you're going to see that our overtime budget is going to be used up pretty quickly. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, but we've also had a situation where a particular inmate needed some cancer treatments that we had to pay for, and it's going to use up more than half of our medical budget, inmate medical budget this year. So probably be coming to you here in a few months to try to transfer some funding into that particular budget line, but it's a situation we certainly couldn't budget for because we didn't realize we'd have an inmate that required that medical attention. That individual has since been released. We don't have that individual, but in the first few months of the year, we had some serious medical bills because of that inmate. So I wanted to bring both those things to your attention. I don't have anything else, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any before we get into our resolutions.
Sheriff, just a curious question. In addition to wages, are there other things that you think are going to have to be looked at in terms of you getting enough of the staff that you need?
Well, I think certainly being competitive wage wise is going to be one of the most important things. But, we'll have to look at all of our benefits and what we can do to recruit. I think there's more that we can do to recruit people here locally. I know that one of our advantages when we recruit is sometimes you do find individuals that want to work in their home county. They don't want to travel, to another area. They don't want to work for a state agency that's going to send them, out of the area. So we do have that, but that only goes so far. We've got to make sure that we're competitive with wages and benefits. And, we have to, I believe, we have to look at that soon and start working on negotiations soon. We can't let this linger, or I'm very concerned that we're going to lose additional staff to neighboring agencies.
And this is particularly road staff, deputies, or custody workers, or both, but which you're referring to, which is the highest priority?
Primarily now is custody. That would be the jail. We're down 10 positions in the jail. Knock on wood, we're down one position on the road, and we'll be down one additional with a retirement coming at the end of May. But so knock on wood, we're doing okay on the road, but that could change at any time too if we're not staying competitive, because I do know some sheriffs that are having problems in that area, just as, to the degree that we're having in our jail. So I don't want to see that occur here either. We just got to make sure that we stay competitive.
And you have 33 or so road deputies, but how many custody workers? You need to be 95 or something. Is that the magic number?
We have 96 budgeted positions in the jail, and we're down 10. We do have two that are field training that recently graduated in academy. We do have two in an academy, but that we have 10 vacant positions. It doesn't include the 4 that we're actually training. So when you add that into the mix too, there's 4 additional people that aren't on the floor working on their own yet. So, essentially you've got 14 positions that aren't they're on the floor being affected right now.
And lastly, there's no way to predict if you end up having an inmate that has excessive medical needs or they don't. It's just a cost that you have to cover as part of your responsibility.
Unfortunately, we're mandated to provide certain medical coverage for certain inmates when they're in our custody. This inmate was sentenced to our facility for a few months, so we didn't have any choice but to provide that treatment. So we're stuck with the costs of that.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Chairman Gould has a question.
Yeah, Sheriff, I know that the custody guys are going to be the first up for contract negotiations, and that's coming up very soon. And I know you'll have your stats with you, but make sure that we talk about that in contract, because I'll help you all we can to get some more custody guys. We really need it.
Thank you. Will do.
Welcome.
And I have Mr. Dennison with a question.
Yeah, Brian, I don't know if it's happening here, but I mean, across the country, because, well, let's just be honest, who the hell wants to be in law enforcement today, the way they get treated? So there's a lot of people retiring, and if you have to have 95 by law, I guess it would be, what happens if you can't? I mean, what you say you're down 10 now, is there a period you can be down a certain number, or, I mean, how does that work, I guess?
Our mandatory minimum that's set by the State Commission of Correction is 95. We're supposed to maintain 95 positions within the facility. However, we certainly can't recruit and hire fast enough to keep up to those mandatory minimums. And most every sheriff in the state is in the same predicament right now. So the State Commission recognizes that. And I think they recognize, if you're out there actively recruiting and you can't fill the positions, I mean, we can't work a miracle. So I don't anticipate there being a concern with the commission as long as we're doing everything we can to recruit and try to fill these positions. So I'm not concerned with that.
I guess part of the question would be then, does it affect the number of people you can have in your jail? Like, do they cap your limit if you're down 10 people and they send them somewhere else? Or how could they if everybody's in the same boat? I mean,
It would depend on if we got to a point where we didn't have enough staff to fill these overtime slots. If our number got so low that it just wouldn't be possible, certainly the commission could potentially step in and say, you don't have the ability to house, X number of inmates. But right now we're able to fill the overtime slots because people are working, so we're able to cover these posts. But we can't just reduce the number of staff on any given shift. We have to have the set number of staff covering those posts, whether it's done with overtime or, somebody that's on their straight time. But right now we're able to do that. So the commission's, okay with where we're at. But certainly if, I can't give you a number of how many more we would have to lose before that would be a factor, but it's certainly becoming challenging. And I can say that, it's not sustainable forever here to ask staff to work this much overtime. And unfortunately, our work crew, that was a real popular program in the community and good for our inmates. We can't do that. So those are things that, we want to get back and do. But right now, our primary focus is just filling, those mandatory posts that we have to fill. And if we can do it by overtime, I think that we'll be okay for the short term.
And Sheriff, in fairness, you don't have the staff to supervise them if they're out on a job, and you really don't have the unsentenced inmates to even send out there. Both of those things are factors. Is that correct?
They have been. The unsentenced inmate population, that changes. Sometimes we have a number of sentenced inmates that would be capable to be classified to go outside the facility and work. That kind of fluctuates. We do have a number of them right now that are filling posts in the jail, delivering meals, doing laundry, things like that. So I can't speak to the number of sentenced inmates we have right now. If we had enough staff, if we could send a crew out, but that since COVID started, when COVID started, and at when we went into the first year of bail reform, the courts were releasing a lot of inmates. We had originally didn't have enough sentenced inmates to have our work program, but we started to get some of these sentenced inmates back or see our numbers go up. But now the biggest issue is staffing. So it could be a little bit of both, but we have seen our sentence population climb a little bit. So I think if we could get our staffing levels back up, we might be able to, periodically put, one crew out there at times. But right now that's not even an option to look at.
Thank you.
I have another question. Mr. Petrus.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say more as a statement. I think we should treat this as an officer safety issue primarily because, being short-staffed and everybody working on overtime, I want to make sure we're taking care of our officers, making sure nobody's getting hurt because they're exhausted. Maybe they're making good money, but maybe they're, not in the safest place. So I want to make sure that we have sufficient staff to make sure that our officers are safe. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate that, Legislator Petrus, because you're absolutely right. And that's why I say this is a short-term thing. And I can't define how long short-term means, but we can't do this. We can't do this forever. So we're going to have to monitor that. And if we have to shrink the size of our facility at some point, working with the commission because we just can't hire enough staff members, then that might be something we have to look at. But, right now we're making it work.
I've got a couple more questions. Lydia, go right ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Sheriff. Are there ways, I know that not many towns staff police departments anymore in our area. However, is there a possibility of getting those folks to help?
Our issue is really within the custody division within the jail. So they're really two different jobs. And it's a separate civil service process to fill those custody positions in the jail. So we wouldn't be able to use outside agencies or police officers that work for villages or towns to fill those positions. Right now, we're doing okay on the road. So that's really not, again, a concern. Right now, that's a priority. We've got enough staff on the road. It's the jail that we're really lacking.
Thank you.
Chairman Gould's got another question, sir.
I'm certainly the sheriff knows this, but to Andy's question, if we had to stop taking inmates, it would be the federal inmates that would go first. And we've got 17 in there today, I see, and we get $100 a day for them. So if our custom officers got down so low that we had to take some inmates out, they're the first ones to go, and we're making $1,700 a day for them. So We really don't want to get down that low.
Any other questions for the sheriff before we move on to resolutions? Okay, sir, go right ahead with JP5 or however you'd like to do them.
Okay, Mr. Chair, do you want me to do them one at a time?
Unless there's,
I'll move them as a bundle. I just wanted to be clear. I wanted to make sure that in case former Lieutenant Cornelius is listening, I wanted him to know that I was the one that moved the resolution to replace him. So, but otherwise, if there's no concerns, I'll move 5 through 8 as a bundle unless somebody wants them separated.
is there anyone that would like any of the resolutions JP 5, 6, 7, or 8 separated, or we will move them as a bundle? I see none, so
Second.
I have a motion and a second to move JP 5, 6, 7, and 8 as a bundle. Any discussion?
Just a point of clarification on JP7, Sheriff, this is an additional car that you're looking to get, but you've mobilized money within your own budget to try to offset those costs. Is that the case?
That is correct. This is for the position that you authorized here, I believe a couple of months ago to bring on a new IDO officer to deal with our pistol permit backlog and employment background. So this is a car for that individual. He'll be out there in the field at times as well. So using telephone revenue from the jail to purchase that car and the additional car to replace one with high mileage.
You had gone ahead and replaced one type of staff with another in the time of your budget. So this is accommodating the car for this particular staff. Yep.
Correct. And it wasn't a priority when he was brought into that position because we have a vacant position and some people that were training. So we had a couple of cars. It wasn't an immediate priority, but it will become one here at some point.
Okay. And just my last, because I never remember, we are getting away from leasing vehicles altogether, or we're still going to have a subset of them?
So at the end of next year, our leases will come due at the end of 2023. It's going to be my recommendation that we don't lease again. I would like to recommend, and I was hoping to talk with the legislature a little bit more about this in the coming months, but I personally would like to see us as a county form some type of group or committee to look at our purchasing as far as vehicles go and try to come up with some type of a capital program that we can budget for each year rather than trying to, piecemeal purchases of cars every time we need one. We're going to have 19 cars that are going to have some pretty high mileage by the end of 2023. So this is going to be something that we're going to have to try to look at and address in this year's budget. But I feel personally that we could look at this as far as the whole county goes and come up with an easier way that would be cost effective moving forward for the whole county if we, took a look at this in the right way. But I would be happy to help organize or serve on some type of a committee that could look at this, not just for the sheriff's department, but for our whole county.
Yep. Agreed. Overall planning ahead for what the needs are coming up in the future.
Correct. And I think it'll be much more cost effective going back to our vehicles to purchase those outright than to work with anyone to lease them. In the long run, we're actually paying for that financing and it's costing us more money.
Oh, thank you.
I have one more question, Ms. Nightingale.
Hi, Sheriff. I wondered what the wait time is like or the capacity to get cars now when you put in your orders. How long are you waiting?
We're anticipating about a year. The last cars that we just got in took about a year. We ordered them early last year. We just got 2 cars in that we had placed an order for early last year. So I'm thinking a year. And if the supply chain and chip shortage issue doesn't get corrected, it could be even longer. That's another concern I have, going into next year. But we're gonna, do our best to get as many miles out of the vehicles we have so that we can, get every dollar out of them. But that's certainly a concern. It's going to take about a year as we look at it right now to get any vehicle we order now.
Any other discussion on the bundle? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Sheriff.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for adjournment. Any other business before we adjourn? So moved, adjourned.
Oh, I,
No, yeah, sorry,
we're done.
we're done.
Five, 10 minutes.
I don't know who would vote no, but.
Aye.
5, 10 minutes work if we can. We got people that are waiting.
steps in.
All right, the copies that you're getting are the most recent edition. They should probably still be warm.
We tweaked the city map.
The city map has been reworked just a little bit from what most of you have seen before. And thanks to Greg in the planning department, he's put some larger print on some of the streets so that you can get a better idea of what the divisions of the areas within the city. When we started out doing this, Cheryl and I looked at all of the possibilities individually, and when we got back together, we found out that there weren't a whole lot of different options for trying to get to one person, one vote. And I think that was the first priority of this group and the first priority of any of the legislators I spoke to. Everybody wanted to get away from weighted voting. And the biggest problem with refiguring the districts is in the towns. The narrowness of the county leaves you with very few possibilities as far as attaching towns in order to keep the districts with contiguous towns. That was the reason, and I know you wanted us to look at the possibility of going to 13, staying with 15, or going to 11. 13 just doesn't work. And it starts right off not working. When you look at the northern part of the county, the town of Sterling only really touches the town of Victory. You can't draw a district without going there. And as soon as you go there, you've got not enough for a district for 11 and too many for 13. So you're just stuck with the possibilities right there. The same thing happens if you start at the south end of the county and try to come up with your matching number. These numbers and the districts within the city of Auburn are all within the for 11 are all within the 5% goal of weighted of the population. Since the last map that most of you saw, there's been a little bit of tweaking between the two northern parts of the city of Auburn. District, what they will be is 8 and 9. The districts, when you see them referred to in the resolution, when it gets put together, will be the top left corner will be District 8, and then it'll be clockwise 8, 9, 10, and 11. The districts out in the county, the one with Sterling is number 1, and then it's the one on the left is number 2. The Cato Brutus is number 3.
Aurelius.
Aurelius Springport Fleming is 4. 6871 Owasco Senate is number 5. Ledyard Scipio Genoa is 6, and 7 is the Moravia Venice, etc. The numbers on the bottom of the second page show you that those are the population numbers within the 4 districts in the city of Auburn. The population numbers on the districts out in the county are all listed on the map. And you can see that there is one that is the Springport Aurelius Fleming district is the only one that is outside the 5% limit, and it's minimally outside. It's outside by about 120, I think it was. 120. About 120, which in a population of 74,000, I think the term lawyers use is practicable. It's as close as it can get. And we're going to have Fred practice saying practicable. We've tried multiple other combinations and can't come up with anything that is it's closer. I think this is the best bet. And it seems to be the one that has gotten the general consensus of the legislators that we've both talked to. And we've answered a few questions from people. And if anybody has any more or any other information, like, feel free to ask Cheryl.
So I don't.
Just gotta yell if you ask me, because I can't hear.
Okay, I don't see any questions that anybody has, though I guess I have questions. Are you guys comfortable with bringing a resolution? I guess both the commissioners and council, are you comfortable with bringing a resolution forward for our May legislative meeting? Do you think you could have a resolution ready by then?
I think so, yeah.
May or
We
April?
could have it, we could have it sooner.
Yeah, that's what we wondered. Do you want it sooner? Because you gotta go to a public hearing
Yeah.
and
Everybody's good with that?
Yeah.
No concerns?
For next week at Ways, Chris.
Okay, yeah, that's even better. I love it. I just didn't want to offend anybody. Mr. Chair, then Mr. Basile, did you have questions, Dave?
No, I just,
Okay.
Fred and I just talked, if we could, for Ways, that's great. He's ready for it.
Please, if you guys can have it for them, that's outstanding. Jim?
Yeah, so we've talked about the 11. Did we ever finally or firmly confirm that the 15 wouldn't be one district, one vote?
Well, I'd like, if I can take that, I've been pretty clear about my support of 11. And I think that it fits the parameters the best. But I would also say with regard to 15, it again leaves Brutus, again, ladies, correct me if I'm wrong, again, leaves Brutus significantly underweighted and does not fit the parameters set forth by the Supreme Court. And I think there's I know I'd have a problem with it.
Close.
The difference, the real difference is that the one with 11, we have one district that's minimally over the 5%.
though.
In 15, out of the 15 districts, there are 7, I believe, is the number that are outside of 7 of those districts are not a lot outside.
But
The one,
Brutus is
Brutus is off
almost
by,
600. 500 and
500 and some.
Again, I think what to take away from it is that both, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that both are maybe acceptable, but the 11 fits the parameters set forth better than the 15. Is that a fair way?
Yeah, it's not even close. The comparison, 11 is.
Right, just fits it
you know,
much
is
better.
up by 120 in one district. The one for 15, we have some of the districts are over and some of them are under, but they're by much larger numbers than that. They're off by 300 and 400. A couple of the districts are off by more than 200.
Understood.
It's more likely to be challenged, let's put it that way. It's very likely to be challenged. It would be defendable.
So
Fred could defend it.
it would be, it could be challenged, but it would be defendable. So we could have.
You could make an
One
argument.
district, one vote. We could make a case on it.
I promise you there'll be legislation at 15. Everybody's entitled to their vote, but I can promise you that. Yes,
Is there a third option,
not that I'm aware of.
like leaving it as it is,
With it unweight, then you're subject to,
with the weighted voting?
yeah, you're subject to the, because we're not a board of supervisors, you're not within the parameters set forth by the Supreme Court. So again, right now, we're subject to recourse. Is that the right word, Fred?
Yes. And in addition to that, the weights would have to be recomputed for all the districts based on a population change. So that would have to be done.
That's a math problem, though. It's not like.
Well, the reweighting,
That's a calculator.
But I'm not sure we have anybody in-house that has that skill anymore.
the largest to the smallest district is almost 2 to 1 on the weighted vote. the largest district is at almost 7,000 and the smallest one is just over 4,000.
Fred, and then Mark.
And the other challenge is the law adopted by New York State in October wants the counties to get to one person, one vote. So in addition to having a weight problem, in addition to having a percentage problem, then it's almost contrary to what the state is looking for. The state is trying to get to one person, one vote.
Which results in what if we don't comply?
If you get the weights right where they should be, you may survive a challenge.
Thank you.
Mark?
I mean, we've heard all the positives about going to 11. Is there or are there negatives to go to 11? I mean, you know, nothing's ever, you know, it's not always an easy street. Always usually a bump in the road somewhere. What's the bump?
Well, I suppose one of your negatives is you're gonna have a bigger territory to cover, but I mean, I don't think there's.
Yeah,
any
I already know
negatives As
that.
far as the numbers are concerned, I think the negative is just the larger territory for each legislator.
The, the argument could be made that fewer legislators give you fewer ideas, fewer people exchanging ideas up here.
That's very.
That could be a plus
That's
or
not
a
always a bad thing.
Yes.
So-
Less representation.
Well, that's what I was saying.
And that's where I was gonna go with it, to kind of add on to what Cheryl was saying. If we decrease the number of legislators, the legislators each have more people that they represent, which means we're possibly bringing in less voices because we can't talk to all of our constituents.
I would argue that we are going from 5,000 to 7,000 plus or minus 500. These are manageable numbers so easily. Yes, sir.
So what's that do for all the committees now too? What about all these committees and all these things that all the legislators have to participate in? You're gonna divide that from 15 now down to 11. And I'm happy with my $13.50 an hour, but
You're lucky if you didn't have.
I haven't done my report, but I'm just saying now you're gonna take, so there's 6 committees right now, right? And there's six or seven. So now
You're gonna go.
are we gonna just do
5
Are we
probably?
just gonna do away with the committees and just have?
Oh, that's extreme.
That's
Yeah,
not
no, you're not gonna do
extreme.
it. You're gonna go from 7 to 5.
You're gonna go from seven committee, 7 people to 5 people in each.
I
committee?
think, somebody check me if I'm wrong.
I mean, are we looking at the big picture down the road with it, with that? Well, not just these committee meetings, but look at the list of stuff that the legislators all get put on.
Yeah, someone should consider making an executive to handle the day-to-day operations of the county.
I don't think that's the same thing.
I don't think
though.
that's what we're talking about right now. Right
I,
now, we're talking about the districts and redistricting.
but I thought you were talking about managing the county.
No, I was talking about all the committee, well, I am, all the committees that we're asked to sit on. So we'll not be asked to sit on any committees. A new legislator won't be asked to sit on any committees but the 6.
No, that's not true.
Well, I didn't ask you, I was asking the chairman.
So there's 6 standing committees and we would have to change, Fred, right? We would have to change our bylaws in order to create different committees. So I just don't see how you would change the committee structure by changing the number, anything other than going from 7 to 5.
I'm asking.
Oh, I understand. These things all need to be sorted out. So I ask the questions now.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that. You don't have to have 7 on a committee. You can bring it down to 5. That way you're on just as many committees as you are now and not more. I just asked Fred. So we can do that.
So we're able to do that math right now.
I'm not taking the bait.
Smart man.
Yes.
And not to sound like I'm challenging, I know you chased me away real quick when I asked the last question.
No, I'm just trying to defend my point. That's all. Please don't take it.
Nope, that's fine. But already I have constituents who say, I want to go back to Board of Supervisors where my voice is heard, where there is one supervisor for one town, and those are the people who are meeting. And now we're going to cut it back even further where they're getting less representation. What I'm saying is my constituents will not be happy with going to 11. That's farther away from where they want to be. They want less government and more voice.
Wouldn't you, I don't know if and forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to have a dialectical,
I'm all about it.
but I think that by shrinking the size of the body, we are limiting government and doing just what we're supposed to as conservatives.
Numerically.
Sorry if I just lost some.
Numerically, no, you're right, as far as the numbers, but as far as the representation goes away.
Not really, because you're still representing each person has or is represented through like the Republic form of government by their individual legislator. So by being one person, one vote, they are represented. Right now, I have an argument. Trish, I think, is the smallest one. Are not being represented right now. We're not. It's not good for us right now. My constituents are not being represented. Trish, are not being represented appropriately. Sorry, go ahead.
It might be instructive to think for a minute about the way this has transpired over time. When they started out with the Board of Supervisors in the 70s, during the 1970s, they had a Board of Supervisors.
Yes.
And they had they decided they would call that the county legislature, and they combined. They never they never put the districts together equally. They just paired them up
By town.
whatever the way they wanted to. They weren't equal. They weren't in any way equal. Right from the very beginning, they were not equal. They started out, they had 23 towns, they had 23 supervisors and 10 in the city of Auburn because they had wards. Right now, there are no wards in the city of Auburn, so you would have to recreate that in order to go back to something like the Board of Supervisors. Secondly, the next time that they changed it, they went down to 23 members. 2 years later, they went down to 21, then they went to 19, and then they went to 15, which is where it's been since 1990, the 1990 census. Each time it's been decreased in size to become a more workable group has always been the argument when they went before the voters.
Just gonna say the one district that did not change is Senate and Owasco. So that person has always been representing many more people than the rest of you, and they've handled it.
Essentially.
I mean, this just brings it all into an equal.
Would it be fair to say that by going to 11, we all bring everybody up to
The same number of people.
Andy's size?
That's right.
So if I had a district that was crunched in, it might be easier to handle more people than a district that's spread out.
Absolutely.
No.
There's no doubt about
I mean,
that. you know.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's the truth. Mark's is the one that stands to be affected the most by.
Some of these people that Scipio, I mean, look at that U-shaped district. They got to drive through 7 to get to their bottom end of 6 and lock.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be more of a challenge for for most of the districts. Looking at 6, 7, and 1, they're pretty spread out.
Fair. I mean, I think they're reasonable.
Populations in those areas are pretty spread out.
Yeah, but you were, saying that someone said earlier that what's now being represented as District 5 is harder to manage than another district.
The numbers are the same. It's just smaller.
Geographic the country.
So
the best way to get them together is a barn fire because they never show.
And in my situation currently, I attend 3 town board meetings every month. I try to hit all of the meetings. If I had Senate in Owasco, I'd be able to spend more time with my family because I'd be attending less meetings. In this situation, if I'm the fortunate one to be elected to represent, I have additional meetings. So although it's not just about the numbers of people identify in their towns as well, and they have their local governments also. Am I making any sense there?
I do, I think, because you're trying to keep like a community identity. Is that what you're trying to say, maybe?
Well, they expect you to, because they have their meetings as well. They have their issues as towns. They have their budgets. They have their challenges, and they expect you to be there knowing what those are.
Well, I feel as though it's manageable. I respect everybody's decision at the end of the day, how they vote. I've been pretty open what I think is the most appropriate. We've had credible testimony as to what is the most appropriate, and also the options. If possible, I'd like actually, do we want it before? I can't answer that. So we can either wait till next month or have talk to Hans about having a resolution for Ways and Means. Yes, Mr. Chair.
I mean, we discussed this, both groups discussed it in caucus, and I thought both caucuses came to kind of a big majority agreement on this. Something must have changed since last week. So, I mean, Fred's got it almost all done. If we want to talk about it more, that's great. But if we don't, then we vote like we vote on everything at Ways. That's the way I feel.
I'd like to see it brought before Ways if the resolution is ready, but I don't have that authority. I tell you, when the resolution is ready, I'll bring it before the full legislature. And if it's, however the vote goes, I hold no grudges.
Let's take it to Ways then. I mean, Fred's got it 3/4 of the way done, he said. So it can be done by next Thursday, easily.
Ready for, that's what I'd like to do. Mark?
I don't want to throw a big monkey wrench in the whole works here. Obviously, I think just listening to this conversation, there's been some, maybe some minds have changed, or there are some questions that need to be answered. I will speak for the Republican side of the House and say, is there a possibility of another caucus prior to Thursday?
Well, let's caucus, but still have the resolution.
I agree.
I'm not in that committee, but I would agree with that. I'd like to have a caucus before.
Yeah, but Fred, can you keep working on it until we?
Yeah, well, I don't want to hold up.
Instead of presenting it at the Ways, can we hold it until Ledge?
Mr. Patcher is the chairman of Ways and Means.
He doesn't like 11. I remember that.
We can certainly have a caucus before next Thursday. I mean, that's not a hard thing.
That's all I was saying.
Just send out an email for our caucus. I can't speak for the Democratic caucus, but again, I thought this was all discussed and pretty much all settled.
All right.
Until a half hour ago.
So let's have Fred continue to work on this. Katie and Cheryl are both busy. Is there any further questions for Katie and Cheryl regarding the 11 districts, or you all have the report? Any questions regarding the report?
No questions regarding the 4. Could have another copy of that 15 for our caucus.
Okay.
Map with the population on it.
I can send it to you electronically, or we can get one taken care of for it.
Sitting there.
Send it to Sheila or Max and they'll print it for you, or not.
Yeah.
I'd just like to thank them for the work that they did on it. I mean,
absolutely.
The numbers look great. They're really close. And I know it was quite the task, especially when I flipped the page and see all the streets and stuff on there. You guys must have gone nuts, but thank you for your efforts. I appreciate it.
I would like to say, please don't be offended by the questions. I gotta find fine tune a couple of things. You guys did a great job at providing this information,
Takes more than that to get me offended.
you know, so.
Thank you,
I want
ladies.
to go.
I have really been offended
I wanna go to
sometimes,
the-
believe me, this is
the,
nothing.
I prefer to do the offending.
I want to get to the 80 grit sandpaper.
Oh, damn. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, ladies. Thanks for all the work.
Thank you both.
Is Sheila's on? Maybe. That's Sheila Smith.
Yeah, it says she was up there.
I'm here. Do you have any questions on the resolutions that I have?
You have two resolutions amending the Cayuga County Travel Policy number 55 and pension reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials. Both relatively housekeeping issues unless someone wants them separated.
Is, Sheila, is the travel policy, are there changes there?
Yes.
All right, can you just highlight the areas of change? I don't have it in front of me.
Next, can you scroll down? Aileen, we pretty much went back to the way it was before. County administrator changed
Sheila,
everything.
I'm sorry. Did you see what I did?
No.
Nope.
Yeah, I apologize. It's my fault. Katie and Cheryl have two resolutions. They're both, one is accepting the poll worker grant. The other is indeed a testimony to Katie and Cheryl's ability to manage funds that have been around since I worked there. Amazing. So 1 and 2 are relatively simple resolutions. Somebody wants to offer them as a bundle.
I will.
All right.
Second, Lydia.
Okay, in a second. So any discussion on those two? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, sorry about that, Sheila.
Oh, that's okay.
Did you get your question?
Yeah.
Sheila, would you like me to scroll down to GO3? Is that what you're looking for?
Thanks, Max. So Aileen, we went back to pretty much the same travel policy that we had before. We just tweaked a few things. So unless I have the other one to look at, I really can't tell you because I only have one screen while I'm at home.
That's fine. To know you went back to one before, it's fine.
Yeah, Lynn and I worked on it. We had Jen up here also working on it. We tried to make it a little bit simpler and easier for people to follow. So we thought simpler, straightforward was easier.
That's great. Just, I'm happy to hear that.
All right, so hearing that, I'll entertain a bundle for Sheila's 2, GO 3 and 4. All right, a second on that.
Second.
Hans is the second. Any discussion on GO 3 and 4? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Chris.
County Attorney, no updates unless. No, this is good. Okay. Sue? Chris?
Our contract for Dreams is probably sitting on Fred's desk, trying to be
It is.
looked over and hopefully get signed very soon. And our DMV is up and running and very, very busy all of a sudden. And in the last 4 weeks, we've just had lines there. So that's all good news. You know, we never know how many people are going to online transactions. And our record center is kind of inundated with spreading. A lot of people are always also doing digital stuff already in their offices. So it's just going to continue until one day we just won't be able to do it anymore. But for now, we're trying to keep track of it, stay ahead of it, but a big pile of boxes waiting to be shredded. Other than that, everything's going okay. Any questions?
Questions for Sue? Nobody online? Thanks, Sue.
Thanks.
I do want to apologize. Yeah, Mark Strong informed me Chris is on. I really need to get glasses. So Chris, was there anything that you wanted to add before I move on? He's just kidding anyway. We're good. All right, so we'll move to IT.
Yes. Hang on. Oh. Oh, maybe not. I thought it was coming.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, yep, the IT department's been pretty busy over the last week, as I'm sure you're all aware. We were contacted by the Office of State Comptroller, and we're going to be undergoing an IT audit effective Monday, the 18th. I don't have much information, but what I can share is that the timeline is going to be covered from 1/1/2020 to the present. They've asked me the state has asked me for a lot of different information, and we have compiled that over the last couple of days and sent that to them this afternoon. So with that being said, I do want to thank all the team members in my department, finance, human resources, and Lynn Marinelli. They've all been very good, very responsive, and very helpful to get that information to them in a timely fashion. So very appreciative for that. So basically on Monday, what's going to happen is we're going to have an entrance conference where we have an opportunity to kind of ask questions while we're there and just kind of go from there. So, as you know, there's been a lot of transition in our department, but in the 8 short months that I have been here, we have made some positive changes. I'm fully ready for this thing. It's a little bit of trial by fire, but we have made good changes and positive ones. So I'm looking forward to going through it and making us better overall. So with that being said, the only other real update other than the 3 resolutions I have for your consideration are I'm actively working on a Homeland Security and Emergencies Services Cyber Grant. That's going to be a competitive grant, and there's a $50,000 award, an annual award for that. And basically what it is it aids the county in the ability to identify, protect, detect, and respond to certain different cyber events. Good news is I have made some changes in our security posture, some positive ones that will kind of bump us up and get us some additional points onto our grant. So that is good news. Some of the changes that we have made, several different applications I've revamped and made them a little bit more secure. We've recently added multi-factor authentication to some of our vulnerable systems. So those are very good things. The due date for the application is May 5th. So I will have that all ready to go by then as well. And then really, I just have the 3 resolutions, which.
So if, in the interest of being expedient, unless someone wants them separated, we can do 5 through 7 as a bundle. If somebody has questions, we can move them as a bundle and have them discussed, or we can move them individually if someone has concerns.
I had some questions on GO5.
Do questions like you want it separated or, okay, so do you want to do, all right, we'll start with 5 as a single. So just move 5, just move 5 and we'll move for discussion.
Okay.
All right. And a second?
Second.
All right. Now you have a question.
Yes, I do. I was curious, with this particular contract, was the procurement done through like an RFP process or?
So I basically worked with Don Carr to identify, a few different vendors that we looked at. All of them are on a state contract or some kind of contract vehicle that allows us to utilize it without going through an official RFP process. But basically what I did is I identified 3 different vendors, some local like ComSource, but also some additional ones like CDWG and SHI. And basically, the large chunk of this particular project is hardware acquisition. So they all come in because they're under that contract vehicle at basically the same cost. The only difference in cost is a smaller chunk of professional services that come into play. And I kind of used the best value judgment as it's identified in the purchasing policy to identify ComSource is the best value vendor just because of their location, their services, their background in the area. Very knowledgeable and they're local right in Syracuse. So like that's the best vendor to go with this particular project.
Okay, and thank you. Follow up to that. in terms of the new hires you're looking to bring on. Is that work different than this work that we're looking at contracting out?
Yep, in terms of the new hires we're bringing on, that's some of the work that we're already putting together. So we're going over like the logical network configuration, building all the different code to pretty much revamp this entire network, make it more secure and those things. A smaller lift from these engineers are basically going to take that code, transition it, and help us kind of transition the county in a manner where we're not disrupting service. So that's where they kind of come in and help us.
Good.
Generally, I didn't see the exhibit for the scope of work, but I'm
I could definitely email it to you.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the name of that actually new torque infrastructure?
No,
or is
that's
that a
typo on my end.
Okay, thank you. I just thought it was interesting.
Further questions on GO5? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Try again. Anybody that wants to give 6 and 7 as a bundle, I'm all ears.
Move to bundle.
Second.
Perfect. Any questions on 6 and 7? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Just a comment. I got a call from Albany from the audit department just last Friday. And I talked to Tom that day, and he's done so much in the last 3 or 4 days to get all the stuff that they want. So I got to congratulate you and your staff. Done a great job for as little time as you had.
Good job, Tom.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Trish?
If I could just piggyback on that, because I was thinking the same thing with your ticket response, like 99% of the calls responded within, I think it was like 1.7 hours. And that's gotta be a huge impact across the operations of this county. It's really a great focus and impressive number, I thought.
Thank you. Yeah, just in the short time, I mean, we've had a lot of positive responses from our department heads about, and they're starting to see the change in culture. So, we're, like I said, we're making a lot of positive change. We got a long way to go, but we're getting there. So.
All right. Well done. Thank you. I think all we have left is Mr. Swab with veterans. He has submitted his report. He has one resolution, GO8. He's on. Thank you. Mr. Swab.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Keeping busy in the veterans office. Filing claims as veterans come in. And it's been an interesting, I'm now on the beginning of month 4. And the time has flown by, keeping busy, learning a lot and moving forward. Now, unfortunately, the deputy director has decided to take a job with the VA. And so that's why the resolution is there to backfill her position.
Okay, any questions before we move on to the resolutions? Before we do that, any questions for Mr. Swab? Hearing none, GO8, I'll entertain a motion for discussion.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? Miss, you were saying bye? Okay. Questions on GO8? Easy enough. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, Mr. Chair.
Just one more comment. And ever since Kevin started, which is the beginning of the year, what a change in that office at the VA. It's been unbelievable. Kevin is a professional. Spent a lot of time in the service. We had our Veterans Committee meeting yesterday afternoon at the Armory. Kevin did a tour with the veterans, and he's done such an outstanding job. We're so lucky to have him in charge of our veterans. It's a great change, Kevin.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Really am.
All right, thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Kevin. If there's no more questions, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Hi.
Nobody gets to say no. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, good. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Thanks.